For the past decade, Rolling Loud has prided itself on being the biggest hip-hop festival in the world, something they plaster across every poster. But when we look at the lineup here for their only US festival this year, many fans believe Rolling Loud just lost that title.
Rolling Loud is the most mainstream, the biggest hip-hop festival in the world. Any random Joe Schmo looking at this lineup, they gonna be like, Belly Gang Cushington? Lil Wet?
To the casual hip-hop listener, you're lucky to recognize maybe 5 names on this entire lineup, with memes even calling it an underground iceberg. 2026 marks a drastic shift from past Rolling Louds, which were constantly stacked with rap's biggest stars. However, while they argue you've simply reached unk status now if you don't know these new names, as we're about to see, Rolling Loud will never be the same. All because of one secret reason.
And they're like, look at this, like, get back to this. And it's like, bro, that's not possible.
If you don't know who this is, meet Tarek Sheriff, one of the co-founders of Rolling Loud. At least I think that's how you say his name.
Yo, we're with my man, he's the founder. I just learned how to say his name. Tarek.
You got it.
Founded alongside his friend from childhood, in order to understand why their festival now feels so different, first we have to see how it even started. The two began by hosting small parties throughout high school, often at Tarek's grandma's in South Florida. Yet, they could have never guessed what those early house parties would lead to.
We used to throw bangers at my grandma's house. Like, I'm talking hundreds of people, like kegs, bottles, loud music. Cops come, we sweet talk them to leave.
A few moments later.
In 2015, the first ever Rolling Loud was held, but it wasn't a festival. Starting off as only a one-day single event in Miami, it's important to note that if you ask Tarek, he says this about Rolling Loud's roots.
Like, when we started Rolling Loud in 2015, it was straight underground. Like, if you came to Rolling Loud in 2015, you were really part of the culture. Yeah. You know what I mean? You were in it.
Despite much smaller and indoors, this initial event still proved their idea had serious potential. We were like, dude, why are there these other genre-specific festivals like Ultra and EDC for EDM and Stagecoach for country? How come there aren't any for hip-hop? He recalls. Attempting to change this, their debut lineup in 2015 was headlined by Schoolboy Q, and also included names below such as Juicy J, A$AP Ferg, Action Bronson, and even Travis Scott, before he had released his debut album, Rodeo.
Travis Scott pulled up to the back and nobody told me he was there. Nobody texted me. So I get out there, we get Travis Scott in the venue. Super dope, probably the dopest set of the night.
1 year later in 2016, Rolling Loud not only upgraded to a bigger venue in Miami, but also expanded to 2 days rather than 1. Headlined by superstar Future, plus countless others as we go down the lineup who would quickly explode into the mainstream and dominate the next decade. From Young Thug, Lil Uzi Vert, and Kodak Black, to Playboi Carti, Lil Yachty, 21 Savage, plus local Florida names like Denzel Curry.
I see you're feeling pretty lit right now. I know you're doing a lot of underground stuff right now.
That's what we say. Yeah, we underground. We out here, mainstream, underground, all that big. We don't give. We out here.
2016 marked the rise of this new young generation of rappers. A generation that, as you'll also remember, was extremely controversial. Which is where things get interesting, because a lot of these same complaints we're hearing today about the 2026 lineup are like what people said 10 years ago. People hated on our 2016 lineup too, typed Rolling Loud in response to the recent backlash. So this raises an important question. Did Rolling Loud actually not switch up? And instead, is 2026 another transitional year for not only the festival, but also for hip-hop itself?
I know they're gonna get a lot of criticism now, but watch and see though, bro, we're gonna look back at this in the next like 2 to 3 years, and we'll be like, damn, man, this is a good ass list.
There's a meme, it's like, yo, I wish somebody told me it was the good times when we were in the good times, right?
True.
So it's like, enjoy this shit while it's here.
Nostalgia definitely does play a big part in why fans think past Rolling Louds were way better, yet there is still one much more significant reason. As hip-hop continued to explode and actually took over rock to become the top genre in the world, Rolling Loud grew right with it. Their lineup in 2017 for Miami was filled with even more legends. Besides headliners Kendrick Lamar, Future, and Lil Wayne, or A$AP Rocky, Travis Scott, and Young Thug, the deeper you look down this 2017 list, the more names stick out, including XXXTentacion.
You are all geniuses. You are all stars. You are all superstars. I love you all, and thank you for having me. This is my dream. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom. I love you to death, and I'm sorry for everything I did to you. I'm sorry. I love you. I love you all. Good night.
Considering that X grew up right there in Florida, Rolling Loud Miami was always extra special to him. Sadly, we never get to see him headline, as X almost certainly would today. The following year of 2018 was somehow better, and now saw Rolling Loud expand to 3 days to cover an entire weekend, stacked with stars to the brim. And rather than upcoming guys like Netspend, Xavier So Based, Fake Meek, Nine Vicious, or even a Twitch streamer, Blackboy Max, on the second line, who, while I think it's cool he makes music, Max did get his start streaming on Twitch, regardless if he wants to be called that or not.
Actually, I'm good off Pitchfork. Young Twitch streamer tries to become a rapper.
Got her. All right, bet.
Got her. Stop playing with me. I didn't even never seen this.
But rather than Blackboy Max on the co-headliner slots, we had household names filling out the rest. If you thought this lineup was great though, 2019 announced arguably the best lineup in Rolling Loud history, or maybe any festival for that matter. Jam-packed with more artists than I have time to name, drawing in over 200,000 fans in attendance, by the end of 2019, Rolling Loud was untouchable, and the title of biggest hip-hop festival wasn't up for debate. But one question was, could they keep this momentum going? As every music festival and really live event was in 2020, Rolling Loud was forced to take the year off due to COVID restrictions. They tried their best to adapt, and hosted this cringe virtual performance you guys might remember, such as when Mario Judah did this. Thankfully, these virtual Rolling Loud concerts did not last long, and when the world finally opened back up, the festival picked up right where they left off. In 2022, Rolling Loud even announced that they were going to start expanding into other countries. And not only that, but by this point, Rolling Loud was hosting multiple festivals per year in the US outside of just Miami, in places like New York or Cali. Despite as memorable as some of these moments became, Florida always remained home for Rolling Loud. And to celebrate a successful 10 years of business, in 2024, Rolling Loud revealed this lineup for Miami, led by our usual Future, Travis Scott, and Playboi Carti headlining. Although fans were of course loving all of these star-studded lineups year in and year out, this is the part that often gets overlooked. Rolling Loud is a business, and all of their dominance came at a cost, a massive cost. For example, Future alone claims that he charges $1 million for a show. Then when you top on more A-list talent that isn't cheap, such as Travis Scott and Carti, suddenly you blink and you're down at least $10 million into a single festival, simply on talent alone. Thus, Tarek knew that this was not sustainable.
Our talent budget ballooned out of control. Like every year our talent budget got bigger and bigger and bigger, and we'd always go over budget. Rolling Loud Miami 2024, we spent $16 million.
16 mil?
Just on the lineup.
Yeah.
And, it just ballooned out of control. It's just, you can't keep spending more, but there's no more room for people.
Dropping $16 million to be exact on their 2024 lineup, the team at Rolling Loud knew something had to change, and it had to change fast. So, after opting against the decision to spike up ticket prices from the usual $400 in order to compensate, instead, nobody expected what Rolling Loud did next. For the first time in company history, Rolling Loud decided to skip their home state of Florida in 2025. With fans' anticipation already peaking for their return, it was then these two tweets that skyrocketed hype to a whole new level. The only Rolling Loud in the States in 2026 arrived this first one. Before next, this lineup is generational. Now, generational is not a small word, so once fans saw these posts, they started expecting another 2019 type of legendary lineup. However, only 3 days later, we were then greeted with this.
Oh my god! Youngboy? Don Toliver? What?
Dude, literally, everyone's shitting on it. Everyone is shitting on the lineup. Give me my money back. Damn.
Immediately, as soon as the 2026 Rolling Loud lineup was revealed in January, the internet was stunned, with many labeling this their worst festival ever. And quick to compare the lineup to previous years, one look at the 2026 poster and you instantly noticed Rolling Loud went much more underground. In fact, memes even started blowing up comparing the lineup to an underground iceberg. But is this year's lineup actually that bad? As we break down the list, to close out night one is Cactus Jack's own Don Toliver, marking his first time ever headlining a Rolling Loud. And while in my opinion he is, especially after his new album, if you ask others though, some believe Don Toliver is not headline material.
I know he's huge, but not that big to be a headliner, I would think.
Okay, so we got Don Toliver. How huge is Don Toliver? Pause. That's a pause on that shit.
That's a big guy. He sold out the Barclays.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Whether or not you agree Don Toliver should headline, you cannot deny he's the biggest artist that will perform on Friday. Because next on line 2, SD Kid. If you aren't familiar with SD Kid, I already made an entire video diving into his overnight come-up you should watch next. But, while don't get me wrong, I think his music is fire. With only one project released so far and having blown up in like the past month, to be listed this high already on the lineup is kinda crazy.
We got SD Kid, which is so crazy. I haven't even listened to one song of his, but all you see is SD Kid on social media. I'm surprised Northwest doesn't have a set. That's how much it's just SD Kid. That's crazy. I mean,
while Northwest surprisingly does not have her own set, instead to join Chief Keef and Saw Baby, Netspend, Xavier So Based, and SoFago close out line 1, who some of you guys might have never even heard of. Before then, more underground names are listed below, including Lil Tyler, Laserdem, and Young Fazo, or Lil Wet, and Belly Gang Cushington.
But we got Belly, what? Belly Gang Cushington. Who the f*** is Belly Gang Cushington? Jack. Y'all know Belly, is that a group or something?
If you thought that maybe Rolling Loud was just trying to do like an Underground Friday to kick off the festival, no. Saturday is basically the same. Apart from Playboi Carti, who is the only one of the three that has previously headlined before, they then give us fellow Opium Max, Destroy Lonely, and Homicide Gang as co-headliners, plus up-and-comers like Fake Mink, Nine Vicious, Baby Chief Do It, and Molly Santana. Pretty lit if you're a fan of the underground scene. But again, we have to remember, as the self-proclaimed world's biggest rap festival, this caught many off guard.
I'm not like flying across the country to go see like underground artists and like Don Toliver and Youngboy. Like Cardi cool, but I ain't doing all that to go see a Cardi set.
As it turns out, Sunday also follows a similar suit, with very few big-name radio-friendly artists taking the stage. Fresh off of his recent Make America Slime Again tour, NBA Youngboy will close out the festival on Sunday night, playing his first Rolling Loud since 2019 due to house arrest. While for Plaqueboy Max here, as high as line 2, 2026 will mark Max's debut.
Yo, streamers got the motion right now. Like, y'all got attention. It's the attention economy. Y'all got the attention, right? As far as actually getting booked, it's like the music gotta be hitting. You know, people gotta fuck with the music. So I think Plaqueboy Max has some cool music.
To join Plaqueboy Max and NBA Youngboy, the final day of Sunday is set to be filled with mostly more underground names, and more guys who will make their Rolling Loud debuts. Which, again, on one hand, if you're tapped into this current rising scene, then you're probably calling this the best lineup ever, and are happy to see Rolling Loud embrace this next generation.
Right now, you can just see they hit a reset button with this shit right here, bro. And it's been 10 years now, so like, whoever's on this list,
I wanna see Georgiana
that is considered an underground rapper, it just shows you where they heading, bro. And I think it's either two things, bro. Either it's a money problem and they can't get those mainstream guys, or they genuinely notice that like underground is the next wave, like fully, bro.
With rumors starting to circulate that Rolling Loud might possibly be struggling financially, which is why they chose to book cheaper artists. Before we can answer if this is actually true, in order to understand why Tarek is making this risky decision, it's important to point out Rolling Loud's lineup won't be the only thing changing. As we can read on the poster, Rolling Loud 2026 is scheduled to take place from May 8th to May 10th at Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. A city definitely fit to handle tourists, but obviously this is not Miami. Choosing to ditch their previous home and now move to the same venue where the Electronic Dance Fest EDC is held each year. As Tarek revealed, whether they wanted to or not, Rolling Loud had no choice.
And then the reason why we didn't do Miami is because we really wanted to go back to May. May was always the best month for Miami. We got displaced from May because F1, the car race, went to our venue in May.
Due to Formula One racing taking priority over their usual slot at Hard Rock Stadium in May, the team instead shifted focus to Orlando, where in about 3 months, they will attempt to host a Rolling Loud for the first time ever.
You think Orlando could be like booming for hip-hop from now on?
I think anywhere my brothers take the festival, that shit gonna turn up. They got me out there for Rolling Loud Orlando. We gonna turn that bitch up there. It's the biggest hip-hop festival in the world. I got no doubts that if they take that to the middle of Africa, it's gonna turn up.
So we started at $249.
Yeah.
And then now it's $279, and then the final price is for GA is going to be $299.
The good news about changing venues and cheaper talent on the roster is that this did lead to a lower than normal ticket price for fans. But this still hasn't quieted all the complaints about being misled. However, so far, Rolling Loud has stood behind their claims. All we said is that it was generational, came this tweet after the reveal, which it is. Just want to say how crazy it was to see some of our friends become unk in front of our eyes in the past week. Doubling down on calling their new lineup generational, especially though for the nearly 40,000 people who purchased pre-sale tickets and expected this year to be filled with mainstream stars like usual, pre-sale fans are extra upset.
I can proudly say that Matt and I built a very strong brand, and our whole team, we sold almost 40,000 tickets, like over 35,000 tickets on the pre-sale, no lineup.
Really?
For this upcoming show.
Although I suppose you do take that risk when buying pre-sale. This time, it wasn't strictly a case of fans being mad they don't recognize names. It's about expectations. Expectations that Rolling Loud had spent literally a decade building up. So then, when 2026 didn't fully deliver on that previous formula, some fans felt outraged. However, here's the truth. Aside from the fact that you can't please everybody in this business, there's one key difference that makes this current decade we're in entirely unique. And Tarek knows this as well.
And it's funny because you got two sides of the coin. You're going to have people that are like, man, where's so-and-so? Where's so-and-so? Like, that's what I want. It's like, yeah, but it's 100 of you, but there's 100 other people that are like, yo, give me something new, you know? If we just keep doing the same thing we were doing for the past 10 years, it's not going to evolve. We're not going to sell the tickets we need to sell.
In the current era of entertainment, 10 years is an extremely long time. Thus, after a decade of success, the team behind Rolling Loud realized that they can't keep running the same play over and over and expecting the same results. Particularly in a time too when mainstream hip-hop can often feel creatively stuck, Rolling Loud made the conscious decision to step out of their usual box, even if that meant, in the process, disappointing some of their biggest supporters.
We got people that have been going to our shows for like the past 5 years that are expecting what we were doing, so they might be a little upset, but it's like, yo, we got to make room for new people as well, for this brand to last the next 10 years and the 10 years after that. If we only book the same artists every time, we're going to be dead in the water.
You burn yourself out.
I think that it's super important for us to keep evolving, keep changing. As new artists emerge, we got to champion them. And like I said before, we believe in artists before anybody else does, and we platform them before anybody else does.
There's a lot of people that are not on this lineup. We made a conscious decision with this lineup to book artists that are appealing to like this new age of hip hop fan. That's why you see the fake minks, the net spends.
Rather than defaulting back to the typical classics of Travis Scott, Lil Uzi Vert, Future, Ski Mask the Slump God, or any other rapper who had become a staple at Rolling Loud, the festival decided to book smaller acts, which was a risky move, no doubt, and a move that many believe will cause this year's Seoul US festival to flop. Yet, when asked the reasoning behind dropping to only one festival in the States,
neither of us, Matt or myself or the team, wanted to keep seeing comments where it's like, oh, there's a Rolling Loud every week now. The genre and just the market is at a place where, and just our brand is at a place where we need to reclaim how special we are.
The truth is, between Rolling Loud's desire to evolve and not keep booking the same lineup, not to overflood the market with festivals every weekend, and, most importantly, the fact that yesterday's co-headliners are now million-dollar stars themselves, it simply is no longer financially possible to recreate those old lineups from the past and still turn an overall profit.
But another thing, too, is that a lot of those artists you just mentioned are headliners now. 21 Savage is a headliner. I Can Only Have 3 headliners. You know, the real headliner, like closing the main stage, there can only be 3 of them. 2017, like all these past lineups of ours where these artists that are now headliners were on the line under the headliner, and they're like, look at this, like, get back to this. And it's like, bro, that's not possible. From a money perspective, but also from an ego perspective, everybody wants to be on the top now.
That right there is the uncomfortable reality for Rolling Loud going forward. Because it's not like Tarek simply forgot how to book big-name acts, but rather, this is what you get when a festival built on discovering the next generation of stars actually survives long enough for those first-gen names to become million-dollar headliners of their own. Rolling Loud didn't abandon their roots, more so they're circling back to them. And to be honest, whether this risky gamble pays off or completely backfires is not decided on Twitter, Reddit, or any livestream, but instead when those gates open in Orlando in May. And Rolling Loud, if you're watching this, please hit me up, I'd love to be in attendance.
Do I know that next year will be Orlando again? No, I don't. Maybe we do the Super Bowl model and we do a different city next year.
Right.
I don't know. We're young entrepreneurs. We're iterating still.
It's not like we'll never see another Rolling Loud festival where they book a Travis Scott's or Future, for example. Even the CEOs don't know what's next. However, at least at the moment, I think it's safe to say that both Drake and Kendrick Lamar are off the table.
Yo, Drake gotta do Roll Out one time, bro. Yo,
facts. Hey. I send an offer to Drake every year.
You do?
Yeah.
Is it public or no? What?
Yeah.
The number?
Oh, we send them our max offer. Millions of dollars.
When are we gonna see Kendrick at Roll Out?
I think he's got so many Infinity Stones now that he don't give a to perform at Rolling Loud, to be real.
Another new business venture we also have to mention is that Rolling Loud is trying to release their own movie this year. An actual movie, not a documentary. Scheduled to hit theaters in September. In addition to starring both Owen Wilson and comedian Matt Rife, and already having filmed scenes like this one during a past festival, who knows what other stars will pop up in this film.
We got a movie coming out.
The Roll Out movie?
It's not about Rolling Loud. I don't know. You probably saw when like Owen Wilson was on stage and all that stuff. You saw it like, going viral.
Okay.
Love it or hate it, Rolling Loud's 2026 lineup does not mark the end of an era, but rather the start of a new one. So forget asking if Rolling Loud fell off, when the real question is, are hip-hop fans ready to accept the next generation?